Welcome back to the Week 4 edition of Addy's Action. I appreciate all the feedback y'all gave me on the Week 3 video. That was my first video that I've ever done on YouTube solo, so the feedback felt great. I got a lot of positive DMs about it. The video itself got some positive comments, and almost 300 views, which is dope. So really appreciate all the love you guys showed on that video, and continue showing that love because that just motivates me and my other two business partners, Christian and Taylor, to just work hard and just pump out this content for y'all. We love doing it, but the feedback that we're getting so positive, it just makes it so much easier to keep doing it. But let's go ahead and start this video by reviewing Week 3. So Week 3, I gave out 7 GPP plays that I liked. I gave out a quarterback, a running back, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and a defense. I don't think it'll always be that much. Like for this week, I kind of have just like 5 or so plays. And I'm going to try and keep it around that range for the most part. But so to start off, I mean, the quarterback I recommended last week was Joe Flacco versus Denver. Baltimore ended up winning that game 27-14. Joe Flacco had, I believe it was like 270 yards passing. I think it was 277 yards passing and 1 touchdown, which was a decent game. It wasn't a GPP winning game by any means. The interesting thing about this game was the fact that I was texting Christian about it, and this game I think had 35 combined points scored at halftime, and it looked like it was well on the way to hitting the over. There was an early touchdown, started the third quarter, and then after that, it just no points got scored in the last like 23 minutes of this game. And it ended up 27-14. I talked about how I expected the Ravens to score at least 3 touchdowns and where I think those touchdowns will come from. I said if Joe Flacco gets them, he's obviously, and it looked like they were leaning towards the pass. Obviously made Joe Flacco a really good play. Alex Collins ended up getting them, I believe, and then Buck Allen got one. So it went to the running backs, but the opportunity was there, and I think the call itself wasn't too bad. We paired it with a wide receiver that we had, John Brown. He also did well. He had 5 catches for, let me pull it up so I can give you guys the exact numbers. John Brown had 5 receptions for 86 yards. He had a 44-yard reception where he kind of got tackled just barely by his ankles. But if he got away from that, he might have just housed that one. So I think that would have been a massive, massive boost to our Flacco and Brown calls. But regardless, 5 for 86. John Brown ended up in my cash game lineup like I mentioned he would, and he did his thing. He helped me cash. And then my running back, I had David Johnson. David Johnson, my whole reasoning behind him was sort of the fact that I think what really hurts his potential as a fantasy player is just Arizona's offense in general being super bad, not being able to generate any offense, not being able to sustain drives. And I felt as though, and I referenced Vegas previously, how there was some reverse line movement on Arizona when I recorded the video. I referenced to that how I think Arizona could keep this game close, which they did. David Johnson still didn't get the love I wanted him to, but he did score a touchdown. He had 4 receptions for 30 yards, I believe, and a touchdown. He only had 12 carries. I can pull it up right here, actually. He only had 12 carries for 31 yards, but he still put up a serviceable game, 16.1. It's not a GPP winning score, but it's certainly a decent score. And so I would call that play, maybe like a kind of worked like a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 maybe. Anyways, there's 2 more wide receivers we got, one of them being Demaryius Thomas. Let me pull up how DT did. I don't think the Broncos are on this slate, so let me pull it up on ESPN for all of y'all real quick. It was a crazy game, man. It was really crazy how it just no points scored in the last 23 minutes. A horrible beat for anyone who bet the over on that. DT, 5 receptions, 63 yards. He put up a decent game. Nothing crazy. Just that Broncos offense just didn't do as much as I wanted them to. It looked like they were going to after that Emmanuel Sanders touchdown early, but they just really didn't do as much as I expected. I guess maybe it was a 1 p.m. Eastern time game. Maybe we just got to give credit to the Baltimore defense. But 5 for 63, it's 11.3 DK points. It's not great. But it's certainly not a sinking score. It's not going to sink you anywhere. And then the last call at wide receiver, I mean, we might as well just talk about it. I touted Calvin Ridley on this pod. I told you guys that there was two ways we could have viewed Calvin Ridley. One, that he got 5 targets and only 21 pass routes ran last week, or not last week, week 2. And I mentioned that it could go two ways. We could either take that as a positive, as the fact that they do want to get him more involved with Devontae Freeman out, and it looked like that was clearly the case here. His pass routes went way up, his targets went way up, his touchdowns obviously went way up. He scored 3 in the first half. He ended up with over 40 DraftKings points. But it's just that kind of thing. We're looking at getting exposure to shootouts for cheap, and he was 3.7K. He ended up being a lot more of a lock as we got closer to lock itself, as opposed to when I mentioned him on the pod. But as value started opening up, it was sort of between him or Tyler Boyd. And Tyler Boyd obviously did well. He was a lot more of a cash game play, but obviously we saw what Ridley did with his 7 or 8 catches, over 100 yards and 3 touchdowns. That was a monster game. May end up being the best call I make on a on a GPP video, which is weird that it came in the first one. But if anyone used that, man, congratulations. Y'all really ate. I ended up not even having them because I played one lineup, and I ended up playing I had a double stack with Matt Ryan, Julio, and Calvin in my flex. And then I ended up going off of that because I moved on to the Rams. And this is me talking about my cash game lineup that I ran out. But I run the same lineup, cash games and tournaments. So I ended up moving heavy on the Rams, and I ended up going with Jared Goff, Robert Woods, and Todd Gurley. So that's what carried me to cash, because those 3 did really well. Obviously, Matt Ryan did 13 points better than Jared Goff, who put up like 29. But in hindsight, maybe I should have stayed on that Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, because there was no way I was getting off Julio Jones. I just wasn't coming off of him. So it was going to be a double stack or nothing. For me, which is why I ended up off Calvin Ridley, because I wanted to get that other exposure to different games. The guy I ended up playing in the flex over Calvin Ridley is the last guy I recommended. It was Jared Cook. I went tight end in the flex. I like the idea of Amari Cooper being shadowed by Xavier Howard, which was the case. I liked the idea. I saw Rashad Jones was out, their potential All-Pro safety for the Dolphins, who was going to be the guy who checked Jared Cook. He wasn't there. Minkah Fitzpatrick was in instead, who's obviously a promising rookie, but it's not Rashad Jones. So I was excited about that. I was excited about getting action to that Raiders passing game. I thought I'd get a lot of Jared Cook action. He ended up doing okay, like 5 catches, 31 yards, and I guess. And then also he got tackled at the 6-inch line. It was actually called a touchdown and then reviewed, and he was down at the 6-inch line, which was super painful for me because I had him. And it was also painful because I went double tight end. I went Jimmy Graham, Jared Cook. I moved on to Jimmy Graham really heavy on Sunday, and he did well too. 5 catches, 45 yards, and he too was tackled at the 6-inch line. So it could have been a much bigger day, but regardless, I guess in general, pretty good calls. I mean, we had the last defense call for week 3. That was the Rams defense. I told you, man, like they were projected at 2.5% ownership. They came in super low owned. And you're getting the best defense on DraftKings for 3,100 in a matchup versus a turnover-prone quarterback. And I think they ended up putting up like 11 or 12. They scored a defensive touchdown on a blocked punt. And that's the thing with the Rams. They're just dogs, man. They're going to give you points any means necessary. Maybe not this week because I think they'll be without Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters, which I wish it was on the main slate because we would have some Vikings wide receivers for sure. But regardless, with all that being said, I would go ahead and chalk it up to a successful week 3. The content came out. It was good. That's the most important part. And the fact that, cash games went well. There was some profit made. So let's just do it again for week 4. I mean, let's do it. So we're just going to get started. I got one quarterback, one real running back, and then sort of like a toss-in running back. I got a wide receiver for y'all. This is both sides. I got for tight end, I'll break it down a little later. I'm going to do something different at tight end and then got a defense for y'all. So let's start it with quarterback, and we got Eli Manning. Now, y'all can see I'm recording this video Tuesday. It's 5 p.m. So it's super early to get a read on who people are going with, where the chalk is, where the projected ownership is heading. But I'm choosing Eli Manning as my GPP quarterback because I think a lot of people are going to go with the Matt Ryan and the Gio Bernards. Maybe even you'll get some Tom Brady action at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with Eli Manning because 2018, I'm going to say it right now, 2018 is the year of the supporting cast. That is the most important thing to me in football. I remember watching, I was watching Evan Silva. I was watching some really smart football mind talk about another sharp football mind who they were asking, what percent would you say that the quarterback matters, and what percent would you say that the role players who surrounds them matters? And that really sharp mind, I forgot who it was. I wish I could give him credit. But he said 60-40. He thinks 60-40 personnel matters, 40% quarterback matters. My personal opinion is that's that's lower than I thought. I thought it'd be like 70-30 because I think supporting players are so important to a quarterback's success. It's everything. And Eli Manning, he may not be the most talented quarterback, but he may have the most talented supporting cast. He's got Odell Beckham, he's got Saquon Barkley, and he's got Sterling Shepard. So, and he's got Evan Ingram, who's probably going to be out this week, but he's got a quality supporting cast that will always buoy him to a bigger fantasy result than maybe his play would have warranted. But the fact that he's got playmakers who we've seen Saquon house one, we've seen Odell house multiple of Eli Manning's little 6-yard slants that Odell just houses, and takes for a 75-yard touchdown. So I think Eli, it's that sort of, we saw what New Orleans had just been getting rinsed by everyone they faced, they've been getting rinsed. We saw Eli have a good game versus Houston. I mean, it wasn't anything crazy fantasy point wise, but he was 25-29 with 2 touchdowns. Just a quality game, And I think back home, I think Odell may get the Marshawn Lattimore treatment, which opens up a lot of these other weapons that he has versus just suboptimal players in a suboptimal scheme that's going on right now in New Orleans. So they're a mess, honestly. If we go even just pull up the Saints defense, which I'm assuming is near the bottom as it is. Look at this. They've just been getting rinsed. They gave up 18 points to Cleveland. That's the lowest. They gave up 37 to Atlanta, 42 to Tampa. And I just think that stays the same, even though this Giants offense isn't as talented as maybe that Tampa or Atlanta offense. But I'll maybe put on the scale of the Tampa offense. But maybe not the Atlanta offense. So I do think we see these guys score a few points. We have them projected at, it's a 4:25 p.m. game, which is interesting considering it's in the Meadowlands. But we have them projected at 23.25. It should be a back-and-forth game with a lot of points scored, a high over-under that's rising. So definitely interested in Eli Manning this week as our GPP quarterback. Moving on to running back, though. The guy we're going to look at here, and I think first it's important to identify who I think will be the chalk. Who I think will be the chalk at running back here is right here, Ezekiel Elliott. I mentioned it on our podcast preview when we were looking ahead to week 4. He's my favorite running back play, Ezekiel Elliott, this week. I think he's going to be everyone's paper soft matchup versus Detroit. He's home. He leads the running backs in snap share, but I'm not here to talk about Ezekiel Elliott. I just really like him. Ezekiel Elliott is probably going to be the chalk. I think I see some people going down here to Tevin Coleman as well. And so I think an edge that you can find in GPPs is good players priced sort of in between the chalk. So we're going to look somewhere in between the chalk because I think people are going to be comfortable clicking in these guys. And I think people will sort of leave this middle range alone. And so we're going to come right here in this middle range and go with Jordan Howard as our first GPP running back play. Both defensive tackles were out for Tampa Bay this week. We saw them get exposed a little bit in their run game versus, I'm honestly drawing a blank on who they were playing, even though we literally the Steelers. Yeah, we saw James Conner put together some decent runs versus them. And in general we just saw that Tampa defense get shredded, obviously by a superior Steelers offense. But the fact of the matter is Tampa Bay defense has been playing above their expectations for the first 2 weeks. I mean, they're starting Brent Grimes at cornerback. He's getting roasted every time someone throws over there. They're not hanging with they're going to regress defensively. Just it's just natural at this point, especially with their offense putting up putting up points the way they're putting up points, their offense is relying on the big plays. The defense isn't getting a lot of time on the sideline to rest. They're just sort of been thrown out there in a high-paced game, and I like Jordan Howard to take advantage of that. I think Matt Nagy's a smart coach. I think he knows that he needs to keep this Tampa Bay offense off the field. This Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson, Ryan Fitzpatrick, O.J. Howard, this lethal offense, he needs to keep them off the field. He's smart. He knows that. I think he's going to run the ball a lot with Jordan Howard. It was encouraging to see Jordan Howard still get 24 carries despite them falling behind 14-0 to Arizona. They didn't abandon the run. They still trusted him. I wish his targets were a little higher, but I think for the most part he's going to end up in this 4 to 5 range that we see right here, which is just another boost to his value if he's getting 5 receptions a game. Because this guy is a super talented runner in a super good matchup. And if any of those 2 defensive tackles for Tampa Bay is out, this matchup just is even more boosted. And I think at least one of them will probably be out again this week. So definitely interested in Jordan Howard this week. The next guy we're looking at is at running back again. It's actually right next to Jordan Howard. And we're going right back to David Johnson this week. David Johnson. The thing with David Johnson, again, you want competitive matchups for Arizona, and I think Arizona's got another competitive matchup on tap in Seattle. I think, obviously, we've talked about the Seattle defense just being not what they used to be. We talked about, we all know how talented David Johnson is. We recommended him last week. I think this change to Josh Rosen is something that is gonna benefit this offense in general. He's more talented than Sam Bradford. He's at least more exciting than Sam Bradford. I think it opens up a little bit for David Johnson. I also think it opens up a little bit for Larry Fitzgerald, but we'll talk about that later or maybe on the podcast or something. But I think it opens up a lot for David Johnson. And the fact of the matter is, this is a price play. He's 6.6K. He's priced below. Like, he opened the season up in the Kamara range, and now he's 3K cheaper. Still as talented as he was when the season started. He hasn't had one of those monster games, but he's going to, and you don't want to miss it when it happens. And I think this could be the game as well. It just like it could have been last game. I might even like this matchup more, and he's 600 cheaper. And if we keep looking at this, it's early again, but we do see a little bit of reverse line movement. We see 26% of bets on Arizona. They're home to Seattle. We see the line move from +3.5 to +3, which shows us that a lot of sharp money. This 26% that have bet on Arizona contains more money than this 74% that have bet on Seattle. So that means that this is what we like to call reverse line movement in Arizona's favor. It's very small reverse line movement right now, I should say that. But I do think we could see this extend throughout the day, or throughout the week, I should say. We've already seen their team total rise 0.8. The total on that game has jumped 1. I could see David Johnson having a big game, and I don't want to miss the David Johnson big game. So I could definitely see him cracking my lineup this week. Moving on to wide receiver, I only have one wide receiver I want to talk about, and that's Sterling Shepard. He's 4.9K on DK. He's 6.2K on FanDuel. Actually, you know what? My apologies. Jordan Howard, by the way, is 7.2K on FanDuel as well, which I also feel is an extremely fair price for him. I just wanted to get that out there. But Sterling Shepard, 4.9K on DK, 6.2K on FanDuel. Just an awesome play. I talked about it earlier. I think Odell Beckham's going to get the Marshawn Lattimore treatment. Something similar to what we saw with the Saints just this week. I think they gave extra attention to Julio Jones. Marshawn Lattimore shadowed Julio Jones until Calvin Ridley went off. And then I remember reading that they moved Marshawn on to Calvin Ridley, which is pretty crazy because you should probably just leave him on Julio. But, I mean, regardless, I think Marshawn Lattimore is going to see a ton of Odell Beckham Jr., which is going to let Sterling Shepard kind of run wild on whoever's left in that secondary. And I think he's not going to put up the Calvin Ridley game, but I think that second wide receiver spot versus New Orleans is going to be a spot that we really try and target a lot this year. Again, I love Eli, so I think it really pairs well to pair Eli with Sterling, because I think Saquon and Odell are going to garner the ownership as far as skill position players go for the Giants. So I think getting Eli with Sterling Shepard could be a really interesting way to kind of differentiate your Eli exposure. And your Shepard exposure as well. And keep in mind, guys, this video is being recorded on Tuesday, so I'm trying my best to kind of foresee where I see the chalk heading. I could easily see people getting on Sterling Shepard when we get to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I could see Sterling Shepard gaining ownership. So I guess just for right now, I really like Sterling Shepard as what I envision to be hopefully a low-owned beast wide receiver play. Anyways, moving on from that, we got tight end left. Now, tight end's interesting because when I was going through tight end trying to find a play for you guys, I reached sort of this 4K range right here, sort of Trey Burton and down. And I realized that I like a few of them, but it's too hard to dictate where this ownership is going to go on Tuesday. We just don't really know. So I'm going to go ahead and recommend a few people, or not recommend, but I'm going to give you, let's just say, a quick blurb on a few people, you know. I think Trey Burton's in play versus a very soft Tampa Bay defense versus the tight ends. We saw Vance McDonald exploit this. Even Jesse James got a couple catches. Teams are starting to realize that this Tampa Bay defense cannot guard tight ends. I think Matt Nagy, N-A-G-Y, Matt Nagy, how we talked about, I think he's a smart guy. I think he knows how to attack defense's weaknesses. And I think Trey Burton is kind of in that spot this week. So I think we could see a lot of Trey Burton. Another guy I really like, obviously, is Eric Ebron. If Jack Doyle is out again, Eric Ebron got 11 targets last week. He wasn't efficient with those targets. He got 5 catches, but the fact of the matter is Andrew Luck had an average attempt of 4, like his average pass attempt was 4.1 yards. This guy's not throwing deep. He can't throw deep. He physically can't throw deep. Like, he just can't do it. So all he has is check downs to like Chester Rogers and anyone who wants to run a route within 5 yards. And that's where Eric Ebron runs routes. So he's obviously a awesome play again. He'll probably end up being the chalk again, maybe. But he kind of burned people. But the fact of the matter is he got 11 targets. 11 targets for 3.6K. So if Jack Doyle's out again, he's probably going to be the chalk, and rightfully so. Another play I like down here is David Njoku. I'm excited to see what Baker Mayfield does with this team. We talked about it on the pod briefly. Njoku had both his catches when Baker Mayfield replaced Tyrod Taylor. He's got a pretty good matchup in Oakland, a game that I could see hitting the over as well. So I'm interested in David Njoku, and we talked about what a beast of a talent David Njoku is. So, I mean, let's go ahead and let me just show you guys why I like David Njoku so much. I mean, we'll just go to playerprofiler.com really quick. I usually don't like to do all this and take you guys on trips through the internet while I'm on here because it takes a lot of time. But just to talk about David Njoku, let's just pull up David Njoku. Freak athlete. Best comparable, Travis Kelce. This guy's a beast. He's 6'4", 246 pounds. His yards per reception in college were in the 89th percentile, 16.2%. That's crazy. 16.2 yards per reception. That's wild. I mean, just a spark freak. He runs a 4.64 40. All his metrics are crazy. This guy, it's not long before this guy's an elite tight end. Not elite, maybe in the upper echelon as far as like top 10 tight ends in the league, top maybe 8. And I think he's underpriced for that. You know, he's 3,200, and I think Baker Mayfield can really exploit that kind of potential that he's oozing. I think Austin Hooper is going to get ownership as well here at tight end, 2.9K. We've seen Cincinnati funnel targets to the tight end, which is definitely an exploitable spot. We saw the Colts drop massive tight end numbers on them week 1, followed by the Ravens in week 2, and even Ian Thomas did all right in week 3. And then and the last guy I kind of want to talk about here is Dallas Goedert. He saw a crazy boost in action with Carson Wentz returning. He got 7 receptions, 7 targets, 20.3 points. So any one of these guys, man, the reason I went through all these guys really quickly is because I just don't know where the chalk's going to go. And so wherever the chalk's going to go, at least here I just gave you 4 or 5 options of guys you can pivot off of that I like, and they're all under 4K. So I mean, I think the chalk will probably go towards Gronk and players like in the upper echelon. But if we're coming cheap down here, there's a lot of guys you can take advantage of for really cheap. And then the last play I want to talk about is the Cardinals defense. Now, last week I talked about how we like to just play good defenses that are not going to be chalk, like the Rams. They were really good. They're obviously the best defense in the league, and they weren't going to be chalk, so we love that. Another spot that I want to target with my defense is the Seattle offensive line. They rank first in the league in adjusted sack rate as far as how many. It's like in the 15%. 15% of times there's pressure on Russell Wilson. This Arizona defensive line ranks 8th in the league in adjusted sack rate as far as how often they're getting after the quarterback. It's one of their strong suits. They can rush the passer. It pairs really well with David Johnson because we've talked about this running back defense correlation. You guys all know that. We've talked about pairing running backs with their defense. If one does well, then the other's going to do well. I really like the idea of getting this Cardinals defense on DraftKings is a crazy cheap price. It's 2.6K. I think they're going to come in at like 1% owned. No one's going to have them. If you pair them with David Johnson, you kind of give yourself that double bonus, which is sick. And I think, I mean, it just matches up well. You know, Seattle gives up a lot of pressure. Cardinals generate a lot of pressure. And they're going to need their defense to rely on this game. They're going to need their defense if they want to win this game. And I think what would also sell me further on the Cardinals defense as the week goes on, again, is the reverse line movement that we talked about. The stronger that this gets right here, the harder that I'm going to move on David Johnson and on the Cardinals defense. The lower this number gets, the higher this number gets, obviously based on good percentages. But yeah, guys, I think that's really it for Addy's Action Week 4. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. Please do like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what you think. Interact with us. It really helps us. It really motivates us to pump out content when we know that it's being consumed and appreciated, and that sort of like conversation is reciprocated because we love talking to y'all. There's literally, we all just sit here and want to talk to you guys all day. So yeah, again, I'm Addy Narang. I'm from locksdfs.com. If you want to check out our website, it's locksdfs.com. Go to the shop, check out our passes. We provide lineups for NHL, NBA, NFL, CFB, golf, soccer, tennis, whatever you want, we got it. We got sports bets, we got everything for y'all. So check us out, man. Give us a shot. We're good guys. We can help you win some money. So yeah, give us a shot. Let me know what you guys think about today's video, and peace.